Good morning and Happy New Year.
Happy
How
New Year.
is your 2026? So far so good. Ama kuna makosa imefanyika to rewind, turudia tena. It's a beautiful Monday morning.
Forward ever.
We are the Power Monday. We are the powerhouse. We demystify the fact that Mondays are boring days. We are a team that is purposed to forge forward ever. We meet every single Monday from 7:15 to 8:15, but you could join earlier for networking purposes. We meet virtually when it's not a public holiday in Kenya. Not only do we meet virtually every single Monday, we have physical meeting that we term as meet and greet every quarter. And if you are in our group, you could not have missed to see the schedule. The last meet and greet is our dinner, and I know we've started planning for it, and please don't miss it this year. We discuss diverse topics, and I always say, who knows? You could meet your employer, your employee here, and perhaps you can make your million through this forum. So today I want to do a poem, simple one. It's a new dawn, it's a new beginning, it's a new year. The sky is unfolding with a promise that is so clear. You see, hope is walking very forward, fearless and near. Tomorrow hums softly, sincere and so dear. It's a happy 2026. We want all the old wounds to grow quiet. We want the lessons to remain. We want joy to learn to dance after the seasons of pain, because faith must find a rhythm in the sunshine and in the rain, because it's a happy 2026. The past must release its heavy hold. We need new stories. We need to rise with courage and boldness. We need to embrace, because it's a new year. Happy 2026. Thank you, and I hope we're going to do this every single Monday, and happy new year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lucita. That was an awesome, short, on-point poem. Asante sana, asante sana. That was good. Thank you so much. Once again, Happy New Year from Power Monday, from everyone from Power Monday. Happy New Year. And so I will call upon Nashami, who is going to introduce the guest speaker of the day. And I know if you've been a part of Power, speaker is not new to you. So, Nashami, kindly introduce the guest speaker of the day.
Thank you so much, and Happy New Year, everyone attending the call today. I am truly blessed to introduce an amazing guest today. Our guest is Derek Bbanga, who serves as an executive trainer, coach, and facilitator, providing strategic support to organizations and individuals striving for high performance. Over the years, he has trained and collaborated with hundreds of individuals and teams, supporting leaders, professionals, and entrepreneurs to elevate their earning potential and professional impact. His true passion lies in helping individuals bridge the gap between their current state and their desired level of excellence, particularly in areas of emotional intelligence, leadership and communication skills, and executive presence. Derek is a seasoned TEDx speaker and a frequent media contributor, offering valuable insights on how to establish a positive and lasting presence for all the right reasons. Derek holds a degree from Sacred Heart University, Connecticut, in the United States of America. He pursued further studies towards a Master of Business Administration at the Helsinki School of Economics in Finland. He's also an alumnus of Strathmore Business School and holds certification as an emotional intelligence practitioner from Genos International. In an international corporate career spanning over 15 years, Derek has served as an executive director for the Global Chamber, Nairobi, regional director for the Alpha Group, and worked as a senior financial analyst at Bloomberg, New York. He has also held roles as a risk analyst at the EDEC Risk Institute in France, and also as a senior communication strategist with a London-based consultancy's Africa practice. Beyond his work as a trainer and coach, Derek is frequently invited to serve as keynote speaker, corporate host, and moderator at conferences, meetings, team building events. He is an ambassador for the Pan-African Advanced Group, Africa 2.0, Africa Point 2.0. When not working with clients, Derek pursues his initial passion for performance by appearing in television productions on Netflix, Showmax, and StarTimes. He is also deeply committed to health and fitness and holds a certification as a fitness instructor. Such an amazing personality. Derek, most welcome.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for that introduction. So, my work across various continents, working in different boardrooms, as you said, sits at that crossroad of emotional intelligence, leadership, and executive presence. So today's topic about image is going to be what I think is your most valuable asset in 2026. And by that, I don't necessarily mean your network or even your capital. It's your image. It does involve a little bit of that. And I'm going to approach this from a more strategic point of view. So I'm not talking about a logo. I'm talking about the total impression of trust, of authority, and clarity that you should be projecting this 2026 in every professional dealing that you do. So the first order of business is I want to make sure everybody can hear me and can see me. So if you can do that, put a big Y or a yes in the chat that you can see me and that you can hear me so that we can proceed as I would like us to do. All right. Fantastic. So I'm seeing the yeses coming in. Thank you. The Ys, the yeses. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. So listen, why for me is this no longer optional, this business of your asset? Of your image. Why is it your most valuable asset? I'd like you to think of certain leaders. They could be local, they could be international. And when I talk about leaders, preferably veering towards leaders in the world of business, but they could be leaders in any sphere of influence. And in the chat, just let me know which leaders to you sort of embody what I'm looking at in terms of this image as a vital asset of their leadership. Just throw in some names. I'm curious to see whom you're following. Yes. Okay. Mustafa Tiano, Vusi, all right. Thank you, Barcotiano. Vusi. Okay, anybody else? Caroline Mutoko, thank you. Angela Merkel, Vusi. Dr. Vincent Oguku, right? Yes, good friend of mine. Mandela, Strive. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, I appreciate these answers. Awesome. Actually, for me, do you know who I'd like to pick? And I'm going to talk about some more later on. But for me, I'm looking at somebody like Satya Nadella. Now, Satya Nadella is the CEO of Microsoft. And for me, he came in and he obviously took over after Obama, and he has transformed Microsoft's entire culture and indeed market valuation. And why? Because there are certain things that he does in portraying his brand and his image, and I might use those words interchangeably. And for me, I want you to particularly look at leaders or think about those leaders who have transformed and actually created, because when I talk about this being an asset, I'm talking about creating revenue. So making a business become more successful. And like I said, I'm going to mention a few more during this conversation. So, as I said, your personal brand. For me, this is where your personal brand has become the cornerstone of professional success and lasting influence. It's where authenticity meets opportunity. And if you're not working on your personal brand intentionally, strategically, and again, I've had this conversation with a lot of you before. This is not my first rodeo. You've heard me talk about your image, how you present yourself in terms of your look, for example, and what percentage, for example, what you're wearing matters, and body language. I'm going to go beyond that in today's conversation. But these are the things we're talking about when we say that your personal brand has become sort of this cornerstone of success and lasting influence. By the way, it's no longer optional, right? This, as I'm going to make the case today, is about you being successful in terms of making money, getting your business out there, becoming the leader that you need to be in whatever area, whether you're running a small business, or I had somebody talking about marking papers. I'm assuming you're a teacher. So it's about you being noticed in this hyper-competitive and overcrowded world. Let me say that again. About being noticed for the right reasons in this hyper-competitive and overcrowded world. Let's just look at, for example, online, which is where I think a lot of people these days sort of are making their brand or making their mark in this world of personal branding. The landscape is intense. Over 500 million, shall we call them, content creators. Content has tripled. AI is flooding the zone. And again, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. The noise that is being created. So how can you rise above that noise, create something for yourself with clarity, consistency? And by the way, the flip side is the opportunity has never been greater for leaders who can be genuine and reliable. So there is not really a formula, but I like to talk about your personal brand is where trust meets differentiation. Excuse me. So this is not about the number of people who are following you on LinkedIn or the number of likes that your LinkedIn post gets or your Instagram story gets. It's about, so let me call this social proof of your results. Okay? This is about making sure that you are connecting with a target audience, no matter how big or small that target audience is. So when I talk about connecting, it's about building a long-term relationship through credibility, through consistency, and about being seen as the go-to experts in your field. So I hope we're together in terms of how I'm approaching this, our conversation today. In fact, listen, just again, at the risk of having you sort of interact with me, put in one word in the chat that represents, shall we say, the primary value that you want your clients or your colleagues or your target market to associate with you. So it could be, I don't know, clarity, innovation, professionalism, reliability. Put in the one word that you would like going forward, your clients or your colleagues or your target market to associate with you. And again, let me pull up. Yeah, did I read comedy? Yeah, okay, maybe I wasn't reading. But truth, simplicity, thank you very much. Satisfaction, reliability, quality. Awesome, guys. Excellence, thank you. Dependability, impact. Wonderful. In fact, I like that word impact. Because for me, impact is, I think, is where it counts. The data is overwhelming. Powerful, strong personal brands see up to 3 times more in terms of opportunities coming their way or revenue growth. And as I said, working on this personal brand of yours, focusing on these things that you have mentioned is where your image is directly tied to opportunity flow and even in terms of a downturn, revenue resilience. So here are some of the leaders that I had mentioned, Satya, Nadella before. Here are a few more. So there's Jensen Huang, who is the CEO of NVIDIA, which now is the world's largest company by market cap. But if you follow him, for example, and by the way, some of you might need to change this algorithm. Let's pop the balloon and more Jensen Huang. But if you follow someone like this, there's certain things that he does. There's certain ways that he presents himself to his target market that has a direct impact on the fortunes of this massive company that is running. So I put there Oprah Winfrey, Sam Altman. Obviously, maybe there's a bias or a bent towards people who are in the technical field. But I think what I'm trying to show you is how personal branding drives trust, it drives authority, it drives growth. And again, it is about doubling down on the things that you want to be known for, the things that you put in the impact, dependability, reliability, making sure that you are the person who is creating that particular perception. Okay? Become the expert in your niche. And again, 2 words there, expert and niche. You can't be everything to everyone. Locate your target market, find out what they want, see how you can help them, and then become the go-to person in that niche. You know, there is a particular profession that I really marvel at, and it is called the wine industry. And not just the wine industry, but the particular people who work in the wine industry who are wine experts. And these are people who, by the way, there's only in the entire world maybe 300 and change, if you will, in an entire world. And in order for you to qualify to become this master of wine expert, let's call them that, you have to go through a rigorous 2-year, sometimes 3-year course, which involves you sitting for an exam that is so difficult that the pass rate is somewhere in the region of 1 to 2%. In fact, if you had to ask the average person on this call or in this meeting to describe a bottle of wine, what are the words that will come to mind? And again, I mean, we put in the chat, since I'm not going to have people unmute themselves. How would the average person, if you're ordering a bottle of wine, how would you describe it? What are the words that we here in this country use to describe a bottle of wine? Okay, tannins, all right. But if you are ordering a bottle of wine, if you went to a restaurant and you ordered a bottle of wine, what are the words that you use? Attractive, okay, fair enough. For me, the words that I hear usually are either dry or sweet. Nizombili. This exam has a blindfold test as part of it. Obviously, it's a theoretical part, there's a practical part. The practical part involves you being blindfolded and describing a bottle of wine. Of course, you have no idea what it's from, you're blindfolded, using a 10,000 word essay. 10,000 words for a singular bottle of wine. You understand what I mean by that kind of expertise. So that exam is so hard to pass. All right? So the challenge is here, become that 10,000 word expert in your area of expertise. And by the way, as I've said, consistency beats perfection, and sustainability, excellence builds long-term credibility. That goes without saying. Okay, so what does the playbook look like for 2026? What can you now put in this invisible toolbox that you carry around with you, certainly in this area of image that I am referring to? What are the things that you would need to do? Okay, it's identifying that unique value. I've sort of touched on that. And for me, it's more than just identifying unique value. It's where I say demand exceeds competition. And by the way, specific is terrific. So it's not just a niche. It's an intersection of skill, passion, and what the market needs. It's all well and good having this skill, this passion, being the expert in your field, but if there's no market need, how are you going to create revenue for yourself? All right. Secondly, it's about aligning your message with the target market. And by the way, this aligning of your message is about having integrity, being the same version that we see whether you're posting on LinkedIn or we meet you at a meeting. Okay, are you the person who, for example, manages their time well, is conscious about being trusted, is the sort of person who will be a man or a woman of their word? And again, seeing that whether it is online or offline, having that, as I said, integrity across all touch points. And by the way, if this is your business, for example, making sure that that translates. I work, for example, with banks. Those are one of my clients. And I will look at a bank, and as we are evaluating them in terms of some of this stuff that we talk to them about, we look at everything from the gatekeeper, soldier. Does he carry the values of the bank, even though he might not necessarily be a bank employee? But that is a touch point, certainly in terms of customer service, that a customer is going to come or to encounter. Okay. And then I mentioned that your story should be recognizable everywhere. So part of that is also developing this story about your brand, where you come from. When you were reading my background, you know, there were certain things that you mentioned that to me are integral in terms of giving me the credibility to be able to do what I do. And I'm very conscious about the words and some of the things that are mentioned in terms of that profile, if you will. Because a lot of that profile is the story of why I do what I do. So again, making sure that your story is recognizable, obviously creating that story, but you can recognize it everywhere. And then, of course, since I am largely skewing this towards, say, what you put online, making sure that you're delivering quality content. Now, again, to me, it's about high value. Listen, there's a time and place for you to post things, for example, that showcase other aspects of your personality, what you enjoy doing in your free time and things like that. But here I'm specifically talking about the things that are going to help you, as I say, talking about creating revenue, working intentionally on your image. And for me, it's about educating, it's about inspiring, it is about solving the the problems that your customers or that your clients have. Your content should serve your customers first before anything else. And again, I obviously use myself as an example. I'm very conscious. And in fact, I'm going to become even more conscious about what I put out there. Now, listen, I'll be the first to admit that once in a while, I might share things with my audience that just, might not necessarily align necessarily with my target market. But I'm also, everything that I talk about, in fact, I'll give you an example. I'm in this WhatsApp group with my alumni. So it's an alumni WhatsApp group, which I think everybody in this room probably is a member of. And that's, the magic of the world we live in. So wherever you are in the world, whatever it is you're doing, people have been found, you can be put in that WhatsApp group and you can reminisce the good old days. I mean, this is going back to high school, this is not in university, with, my friends, wherever they are. And again, a WhatsApp group like that, you have, 100 plus people. So everybody sort of has a different area. I'm not going to go to area of expertise, but certain areas that they enjoy. So there are people there who will post memes. There are people there who will post, content that brings in humor. Even in that audience, I am consistent in terms of what I will share. I will share things that lead credence to my story. Health, wellness, fitness. And if people get bored, hey, but Derek, can you even lighten up? And, sometimes post things that are a little bit more humorous. And I'm like, no. For me, this is what I want to talk about. Because I believe that's the audience that I'm serving. So anyway, I hope we're together. Okay. So if I haven't already mentioned it, a lot of this is what you're putting online. By the way, is there anybody here who is not online? Shall we say, who is not online? Okay, the assumption is everybody has some sort of online presence. By the way, if you don't have an online presence, that is a massive market that you're missing out, or audience that you're missing out on in terms of engaging with them. So part of that is meaningful engagement. And again, it's not about the volume, it is about a meaningful engagement where you're beginning to carve out this lane for yourself in terms of the things that you are good at, as I had talked about earlier. Okay, quality interactions, not necessarily quantity, but the quality of the interactions. Really, to me, set yourself out. And again, I look at, for example, on LinkedIn, which for me, for many years was the port of call, certainly in terms of business, professional content. And to me, it seems to have been taken over by content that you'd see on other platforms. I think to the detriment of the platform. And you'll see somebody will post something like that, and it might be on politics or some other area, and they get a lot of, sort of eyeballs on it. But I still think that even if you are able to carve out that niche for yourself in terms of posting things that amplify your area of expertise and area of expertise in business, even if you don't get the number of likes that you might want, there is still a connection that you are making with your audience. And that's what it is. It's about your audience first. It's about educating. It's about inspiring them. And it's about solving the problems that your target market has. So we're in the age of AI. There are no two ways about it. For me, it is about leveraging AI wisely. Now, again, I don't think there's anybody here who has not posted or written something or prepared something using AI. Just use it wisely. And by talk wisely, use your distinctive voice. And this is not an AI training, but there are things that you can do to train whatever AI tool that you're using to use your voice so that it doesn't look like it is being replicated by somebody else. And these days, everybody can tell when that post was made with a voice that's not yours and was made by some large language model. So again, work on that. And again, it's about being that voice of authenticity and creating your own personal story. Okay. So I'm just conscious of the time over there. Your image as a revenue driver. And, I've been alluding to this entire time in terms of how are you able to now capitalize on working strategically on your image in order to create value for you and for your audience. So there are no two ways about it. Personal brands are now driving company growth. Businesses are scaling based on personalities. So whether you run a big business or you run a small business, everybody from the Elon Musks of this world clearly are using their own personal brand in order for them to create this value. So build authority, which sort of creates these opportunities. Create more opportunities for yourself, better options for yourself, better outcomes for yourself through working on your brand. There are no two ways about it. The stronger personal brands. I look at websites, for example, that have products, they have the services, they have, other information, and glaringly missing is the name of the owner or the people behind the owner. Or further to that, even the story of how this business came to be about. Those are golden opportunities for you to create an image that, again, is going to create this authentic connection with your audience. Okay? All right. Okay, so I think I've talked about that. Yeah, let me talk a little bit about this thing called building authority. Okay, now again, if you look at the people who are successful, they run successful businesses and they have successful personal brands, it's really about the fact that they are seen as the go-to expert in their field. And that's what I mean by establishing yourself not just as an expert, but as a trusted expert. So again, everything you do should sort of serve to that, because that is what your audience would like to see or like to connect with you. Okay. So in the chat over there, let me just ask you, what do you think is your unique value? So what I want you to do is I want you to say, I am the leader who uniquely, okay, that might be a lot to type. So maybe you can say, my differentiator is, and then just put it down there. What your differentiator is going to be in terms of your business and your expertise in terms of your business or the business that you lead. So my differentiator is, type in what your differentiator is in the chat. In terms of your business. So your expertise in your business. Transformation, thank you, Vincent. Anybody else? I mean, to be honest, this is an exercise that sometimes requires a few minutes of reflection, but given that we have a time constraint, just see what you can. Okay, agility. Now, agility is linked to what? So again, you've got to link it to that area of that area that your business is in. So it's slightly different from what I'd asked you before in terms of, some of the things that you want to be known for. This one is linked to your business and what is going to drive your business forward. Okay, laughter through comedy, Rahab. Okay, thank you for that. All right, simplifying workflows. Thank you. Okay, great speaker. Floriculture stories. Okay, these are coming in thick and fast. Practical sales. Targeted outdoor advertising, okay, but what is it about targeted outdoor advertising? Safe nutrition, investable healthcare deals. Okay, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay. And for me, in fact, all of these things that you've mentioned, whatever field you're in, part of this attracting the opportunities and part of this image that you should be creating for your clients or for your target market goes beyond even, say, the nuts and bolts of your business. So whether it is through consulting or training or speaking, or even partnerships, you should be looking at other ways that you can leverage what it is that you do to a wider audience. And actually, for me, speaking or consulting or training, I want to lump those three together because it's about standing in front of an audience and being able to speak. In fact, I always say that the number one, I shouldn't say the number one skill, but one of the most valuable soft skills that anybody on this platform should acquire is the ability to speak in public. And not necessarily because you're going to be speaking in webinars or anything like that, but it can even help you in one-on-one meetings. But yes, it can. It can help you when you have to speak to an audience and leverage, because this is the way that you're able to authentically attract and connect with an audience. So those are some of the things that you should be looking at. And of course, you can monetize this through courses, products, premium services, and so on and so forth. You all know your businesses and which one would apply and which one would be most ideal. Okay? All right. So this image isn't just perception. I've talked about that on this platform before. I've talked about your image perception. We've gone through that, some of things, dressing, body languages. This is more than that. But I want you to look at this as a quantifiable asset that drives measurable business outcomes. Quantifiable means you can measure it. And there are several tools out there where you can measure your image. In fact, I provide such tools so that you can actually see the needle move. This is where I am today. This is where I want to be in 3 months. This is where I am in 6 months. And then link it, as I said, to actual revenue coming in. So your brand equity becomes a measurable business value. You know, it creates a pipeline, if you will, of business. I think that's really what I'm driving at. The right personal brand will unlock doors for you. The right personal brand will build deep trust and ultimately will drive success. Okay? And part of this is obviously investing in it. So it could be investing in it by taking a course or sitting down and looking at some of the things that I mentioned. Okay? It requires clarity. I've talked about that. Consistency, even courage to put your authentic value forward. Okay? It takes time. It takes intention. It is strategic. Part of that is the authenticity that I've mentioned, but you can deliberately put those building blocks together to link your image to how you'd want your business to succeed. Okay, and then again, I've put these in, I've mentioned them, opportunities that are there for you, building trust, driving lasting success. And I've actually seen this with many clients that I've worked with. Okay. So to wrap up, I think today you can start investing in your own future, so to speak. And it begins with today's actions. What are the steps that you are going to take starting not tomorrow, but today? What are the steps that you're going to start taking today? Okay? What is it that you can put into place, that you can set up, that is going to allow you to begin to build this, to be deliberate in building this image that you want. The best time to build your personal brand or to build your image was 5 years ago. The second best time is right now. And remember, if you are not doing this for yourself, somebody else is creating that narrative for you. So take that narrative away from them, and, you know, like water or milk that is spilled on the floor, you show people the direction that you want them to take in terms of building this for you. Your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. I think that's a quote from a well-known business person. And that's what we're looking for over here. All right, guys. So I'm going to leave it there. Perhaps the final thing that you can put in the chat is, what are you going to start doing today, in order to build this image that you want for your target market? So just pop there in the chat, and that'll be the final thoughts that I want to leave you with. What can you put in there? Let me see what you guys are saying. What can you start working on today?
People are still thinking.
Okay, that's fine. Because I've also seen that. That's fine. Yes.
I know some of us could start with LinkedIn. Yes, Derek Bbanga has said, hang out with correct people like Derek. Yes, live my values. That is from Catherine Maina. Live my values with consistency and without fear. John Rajuai, I want to start working on a functional online presence. Yeah. Somebody says Nickerbed. That is polish up my website.
Wonderful.
Yes, narrow my scope. I think mastery is everything in my challenge is this challenge. That's Mr. Kingori. Check out available public speaking courses. That is Susan. Arise and reset my personal brand. Then Ruth says intentional about online presence. Dr. Eda says sticking with winners, distancing from people who don't have my interest at heart. Irene says build myself, and lots of things, they are coming in. So you have an idea.
Some of these things, and I didn't include them in my notes. So for example, if you want to start building your presence online, and as I said before, I'm sure most, if not all of you, have some sort of online presence. The way I approach that is I pick and choose my poison. Now, I've said LinkedIn for me, certainly in terms of business, certainly in terms of my target market. I'd imagine that's the same for most people. There are other platforms that you can choose to live, and to get to counter this thing, this sort of digital fatigue, which is either being spread too thin or we become slaves to that algorithm. We're on every platform, we're on our phones every 2 seconds. So for example, I have decided that there are certain platforms I'm not going to be on. So TikTok might work for you and your small business. For me, I've decided that's not the platform that I want to be seen. I want to be seen on LinkedIn and I want to be seen on IG. Those are my two main platforms for connecting with my target market. And again, so I'm sort of niching and narrowing it down. I could put up TikTok videos or create content that's suitable for one of those platforms and then transfer it to TikTok. But I don't want to spread myself too thin. And I want to sort of narrow down on a specific audience. So that's one way, for example, of how you can begin to present yourself online. Okay. Somebody else also mentioned taking certain courses. Yeah, they're great. You can take certain courses. Pick those courses. Look at the ones which would be most valuable for the type of work that you're in. I've obviously mentioned things like public speaking, which to me, I think is valuable for everybody, because this ability to be able to influence an audience is the one that gives you, I think, the most bang for your buck in terms of perhaps, increasing your customer base or creating that connection. I think that's the reason why I've been invited a couple of times to this platform, because the message that I have is one that connects with a particular audience. So again, I could take a course in anything. There are tons of courses out there. I can go to Strathmore and I can take a variety of courses, but I'm going to pick the ones that are going to help me with as I said, to help me sort of with the revenue of my business. Okay. I just thought I'd mention that before we go to the actual question.
Yeah. Yeah, so there is one question that has come, which I think is critical, from Maurice Omolo. And I welcome people to put their questions. As many as possible will be answered for about 7 minutes or so. So you can put them in and we will take them one by one. So Maurice is asking, thank you very much, Derek. I have a question. This session has resonated with me personally. I project myself publicly as a fundraiser and advocate of philanthropy. Yet in my daily work, I am more focused on implementing projects that drive social impact. I often find myself navigating the space between these two identities. As argued today, where image is key in 2026, how do you intentionally merge a personal brand with your professional reality when they are not perfectly aligned? Thanks a lot and Happy New Year.
I'd like to say, I think I understood the question. Just read that last part out. How do you merge
your personal brand and professional reality? You see, Maurice heads fundraisers, Association for Professional Fundraisers. And then on his daily work, he has other things that he does for earning a living and things like that. And so he's wondering, how does he merge these things so that there is some identity that when people think of Maurice, there is. I guess that's what Maurice is saying.
Thank you. In fact, you've put that very well.
Yeah.
So for me, for example, a lot of the things that I am involved in, passions of mine. So wellness, for example, is a huge passion of mine. Okay, health, fitness. In fact, note to the wise, and this is the first audience to hear this in 2026, there is a big project that I'm working on in the wellness space. But for me, wellness is also tied to the things that I talk about in terms of image, personal branding, emotional intelligence, because wellness is not just about your physical wellness, it's also about your mental wellness. So what I have done, I have taken what I do in the professional world. So talking about empathy, talking about resilience, talking about self-management, talking about self-awareness. Okay? And I have used that and combined it with my interest in taking supplements, for example, how you can work on your sleep, how you can work on your nutrition, how you can use exercise, and merge those things so that exercise and resilience are linked, so that the face of them, you might look at two separate things, but I have been able to combine them. And as like I've said, I have this project that I'm working on in terms of wellness, but I'm borrowing from that professional side. So that's one of the things I think that you can do. I'm talking to the gentleman who had put the question there. Also, I find, for example, if you're involved in a lot of different projects and different things, part of that is about managing your time really well. Being able to allocate enough time for each of those projects so that one doesn't encumber the other. And also, if you are, for example, involved in something that is remarkably different from what you're doing in terms of professional brand, then separate the two. Create two distinct personal brands for you. One personal brand that is heavily in the space of the social issues that you were talking about, and then the other brand, which is on different platforms, which presents you in terms of perhaps the other things that you would like to work on. So I hope that helps in terms of
Thank you very much. So the next question, and yes?
No, I was going to give
Yes.
an example. There are two people that I know. A lady who is involved heavily in the world of fitness, but she's also a lawyer. So she works on that fitness brand as presenting herself, and then that brand where she's, a lawyer. There are certain platforms, audiences that she targets, and the two don't mix, but it works very well for her.
Great. Yeah, that's right. One can also have a personal website that lists all the things you do. I personally do that. I have a personal website that talks about my ICT background and also talks about my coaching, my training, and things like that. And it will always work well. So that's one way. And just to mention as we go to the next question that we have a Power Monday WhatsApp group which people can join, and for continuous conversation, I had shared a link earlier. I will share it again. And then these sessions are also uploaded on YouTube afterwards. And so for people who come late, and even if you want to share with some of your colleagues, your friends whom you think can benefit, can always share with them the YouTube link. You can subscribe. I'd also share the link. You just look for Power Monday or Live Your Dream. Live Your Dream is the host for Power Monday. Otherwise, it's always sponsored by ICT Gurus EA Limited that puts your businesses online. And you can learn more about that from the website ictgurusea.com. And myself, I'm your host, otienopaulpeter.com. Yes. So the next question is from Falcon Insights. Thank you for the insights. I know this is Jackie because there is a personal question and whatever, so that's why I'm bringing the name. Thank you for the insights. I have a question. How do I position my personal brand? That's why I was talking of the name. Yeah, personal brand, considering that I manage a consuming farm with various services offering. And I also run other businesses. It's related to what we just talked about. Yes, you run multiple businesses with which have different services, but then even the organization that she runs has multiple services. So can you position yourself as I supply everything?
So for somebody like that, by the way, not everything has to be online. Online is the low-hanging fruit in terms of connecting with a larger audience. And again, it depends on the product or the service. You could take your main business, or your main service, or your main product and decide to work on that and put that front and center on online, whichever platform and however you want to do it. But those other side hustles that you have, they don't have to be online. That can be an audience where you just curate that audience in terms of a personal relationship. Okay, so you have you can have maybe a WhatsApp group that is just for that little product or that little service that you're doing. You don't talk about it on other platforms. The only time you will share something about what it is that you're doing, maybe you can have a networking event or something, is in that little WhatsApp group. And again, obviously, I'm looking at WhatsApp as not being necessarily the online platform like some of the others that I'm talking about. So not everything has to be marketed, promoted the same way. Now, I can work on my personal brand as part of my main business and do all of the things that I have mentioned in this conversation and previous conversations that we've had. And yes, they will filter down to my other businesses, but they're not necessarily tied to the several little side hustles that I have. And again, part of what I'm saying is that a lot of us, we spread ourselves we want to be something for everybody. you can be as narrow as that, as an audience as you can get. I mean, I'm trying to think of an example, literally just targeting a very specific or niche market. And that's where, by the way, a lot of these successful people mentioned have come from. You specifically target a very narrow market.
I think you may want to answer just this one more, and then for people who, for the rest of the questions, you can pause a bit. We will close the official part, and then you can interact more. But I think this is a very interesting one and a good one from Eric Bbanga, about people who join online meetings or training, but then they are off camera. What is your thought as far as image and branding is concerned? And maybe sometimes they slip in, they slip out, you didn't notice them.
So, Derek, 3 or 4 years ago, I was very, what is the word I want to use? Militant about people having their cameras on. I think at the height of the pandemic, I was like, you have to have your camera on. But I get it. There's that fatigue. However, if you can prepare yourself well enough for a meeting so that you're able to turn on your camera, even if it is at the beginning of the meeting, maybe when you're introducing yourself, and again, it depends on the type of meeting. If you're going to speak or contribute, ideally, people would want to see you. But my views have, the overtone window has shifted, as they say, where I say, it's fine. If you don't want to have your camera on, everybody has a different type of, shall we say, online fatigue that they're experiencing. But ideally, and again, you pick and choose your audience. As the main speaker, of course, I'm going to have my camera on. I'm not going to turn it off. I look at the audience, I look at who I'm going to be interacting with, and then I make an informed choice.
Thank you. I think we need to close the official part, and I will, I can't see Antonia, but I believe Lady Noel is still there. You can wrap it up, and then we
I am not still here. I am here. Unless you
great.
expected me to go and then I come back. Anyway, so I call upon Melvin,
Melvin.
Morris Omondi to give us the vote of thanks.
Okay. I did not see Melvin. That's why I'm wondering. Melvin, I need to look for him.
Mr. Morris Omondi.
Lady Noel, what I was not expecting, but I just want to take this opportunity to to thank you so much, Derek. We've met a couple of years before at the Kenya Association of Fundraising Professionals, and I'm so glad to meet you again. And I think you spoke with us last year about personal branding. And the question I made was actually from my heart in the sense that this is very personal to me, in the sense that the image, like even the examples that you gave are really relevant. If you use the example of Oprah Winfrey, she has created a brand by projecting herself as an individual. She started on by sharing her own personal story, the challenges she went on through, and now she's a champion, a global champion of relationship. She's even promoting girls' education, and she has a big following all over the world. So thank you so much for the sharing you have given to us today. The way you presented it in such a modern way. You know, like there are some things which we are just learning, even the way you are presenting, because I could see some of it is not really, I don't know whether it is a PowerPoint or what. I could see the slides running on the screen as you are speaking, and you are not even looking at the slides. You're just speaking from the heart, and your sound is coming out very clearly, and you are presenting while it looked to me like you are standing, which is a very good way of engaging. Like, you took it very seriously, that although we are in different places, you prepared and you are presenting, engaging with all of us. We really, really appreciate. And we believe that whatever you have shared with us today is really preparing us for the year that is ahead of us. And I also like to thank the audience that came on board, because if you are not there, this will not really have worked. And today our audience was far more than, I think this is the largest I've ever seen. Maybe Paul Peter, you can confirm, but this is far beyond what I've seen before. and it just is a demonstration that people really were looking forward to this. And I also imagine many people will look at what has been saved on YouTube. So again, thank you so much, Paul, Peter, and team, Lady Noel, our poetess who opened it. Thank you so much, Antonia. Thank you so much, all of the Live Your Dream fraternity for making this happen. And we are looking forward to a very energetic year ahead of us. So thank you very much again, and may God bless you and Happy New Year to you all. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We were, I think at the peak, we were around 160 something, 161, 164. The highest we ever were 174. 174. The last one of the year, last year was 174. So, yeah, this is the second largest. Thank you. And I told you, Derek, that we were going to be over 100. I just didn't want to say over 150.
I didn't quite believe you that we'd be that many, so I'm humbled that so many people showed up for this. And let me just a couple of things. So Maurice, thank you. Yes, I of course remember engaging with you. That is part of the branding, the way I present those slides. That is a program that I use that not everybody uses. It's my differentiator. Instead of using ordinary PowerPoint, I use a program called Prezi. It's part of what I do, having the mic, standing. All of this is me positioning myself to you, my target audience. So if anyone would like to continue this conversation with me, that is my contact. So you can you can capture that on your phone, and that should bring up my phone. And again, this is another way of me branding myself. So you can take that, you pull up my details, link to my relevant socials or platforms, and then we can continue this conversation. So I think the final point I'm making, PP, is everything is sort of geared towards me creating this image, because this is my image in the minds of you and my customers. So again, I'm humbled. Thank you very much, everybody. And I wish you every success in 2026.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Derek. That was an awesome presentation. And it's interesting that every time you're coming on board to speak to us, I'm always a quote that you told us: nobody has ever won by wearing flat shoes. That is just a paraphrased one from me. Yeah, but that is what you said. So thank you so much. Antonia, are you in the house? Even as we're waiting for Antonia, I'm not sure if she's here. I've not seen her.
I've not seen Antonia, but I've not seen her. But just to mention, I had put the program for the year. I've put it again. Just mark your calendars. We will have a dinner which will be closing the year in October. That is 30th of October. And our first physical meeting will be the first meet and greet Saturday 29th. There will be others in between there, but I've put the whole calendar in the chat. Please mark it out. And of course, we expect that this year's dinner will be bigger, better. Last year we had about 70 people. We expect to have about maybe 140. So we will start working on it as the poetess said. Thank you all, and you can stay a while so that if those questions that were not answered will be answered. Good.